He who makes peace in the heights, may he make peace upon us and upon all Israel. Amen.
I want to take just a moment to say why some of the music today is so special to my mother. That beautiful piece that was just sung by him will be picked up as the same theme that my brother is going to speak about in his piece. All Things Bright and Beautiful was chosen by my daughter, Gail. It was perfect for my mother because she loved nature and had guidebooks for every kind of thing that there is on this earth. She shared her love of nature with my brother and me. Jane is going to be singing a solo. I love to tell the story. That was a song that was my mother sung to me at night to put me to sleep. And Sweet Hour of Prayer is a family story. My grandmother sang hymns around the house while she did her housework. And her daughters, my mother being one of them, would request certain hymns for her to sing to them. So one day, Frances came up to my grandmother and said, "Mama, sing Pazazon." Pazazon? Yes, Azazel. Help me, I don't know. You know, das ein Dief. Well, it took her a while, but she figured out that that was some of the middle lines from Sweet Hour of Prayer. And so we'll be singing that in memory of both my mother and my grandmother. Mother told me this story 2 days before she died, which shows that she was sharp as a tack right up to the end. She explained with great urgency that this was to be written up and added as the last page of the book that she had written and Bob Parrott had illustrated. The book is called King Lish, and its purpose is to explain to youngsters trying to learn how to read, but finding it difficult because they have dyslexia, that English is indeed a complicated language, as it has grown out of many ancient languages and has borrowed from many languages in use today. In story form, with cartoons, it gives some of the most basic spelling rules of English in a way that makes them easy to remember, with a few laughs thrown in for fun. Now, here is the story as told by Lorraine. One day, as I was out in my front yard raking leaves at 247 Grove Street, a young man who had been a student of mine for 3 years when he was a child stopped his car, got out, and came up to me. He said, "Remember me? You used to be my reading tutor. I just have to tell you, before, I couldn't read, but now I can. I can read anything." And I said, "The same thing happened to me." This was my motivation for teaching all these years. This is why I've had my heart in this. She told me that when she was a little girl, she couldn't read easily, and she couldn't understand why all the other little boys and girls in elementary school seemed to learn this effortlessly. She said it felt like the two sides of her brain had been switched and were on the wrong sides of her head. It's hard trying to read when your brains are backwards and the two sides are not communicating. Mother called it her inferiority complex, and she felt dumb, stupid, and a disappointment to her parents. I was stunned when she said that. A disappointment to her parents? Her mother and father were kind, gentle people who delighted in their 4 daughters and loved them ever so dearly. But mother felt something was very wrong with her, and she was a failure. Then one day the miracle happened. It switched, and suddenly it made sense. Mother could read. No one helped her. She did not want it to be that way for other children. She didn't want them to have the same anguish feelings she had had. Lorraine resolved that she was going to become a teacher. So, after high school, she enrolled in Santa Barbara State Teachers College. She quickly learned that her handwriting skills were unacceptable. She was required to take a remedial penmanship and handwriting course. She also needed to learn how to make beautiful letters and numbers while writing vertically on the blackboard. These skills lasted her whole life, as anyone who is here today who received a note or letter from Lorraine will testify that her beautiful handwriting was easy to read. While she was at Santa Barbara College, she attended the Methodist church there to hear the Reverend John Ashley, whose wonderful preaching and great kindness were well known in that area. Reverend Ashley asked her to be the assistant youth director, which Lorraine enjoyed doing very much during the school year. When summer came, Lorraine went home to Pasadena to help her father in his office. Imagine her surprise and irritation when she returned in the fall to school and church, only to find that over the summer, her job with the youth had been given away to a very brash and self-confident fellow by the name of Walter Holcomb. She thought he was conceited and took an instant dislike to him. In a fit of jealousy, she hoped he would fail so she could have her old job back with Dr. Ashley. Slowly, she found out that he could do everything that he said he could do. And the youth group really preferred Walter to her. Lorraine began to realize that he had some pretty good qualities. 2 of Walter's sisters went to the Santa Barbara church also, and Lorraine liked them. After they got to know each other better, Lorraine found out that Walter had a very difficult childhood, growing up in the Depression on the family farm in Missouri. The worst year was when the rains did not come at the right time. And the only crop that was able to grow was turnips. They had turnips for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Walter was ordered by his father to cut down branches from the oak trees so that they could feed the leaves to the dairy cows to keep them alive. Walter's father became a bitter man, and he directed his anger at his only son. Walter was abused as a child and teen by a father who beat him regularly. Yet, he was able to rise above this and find his own self-worth. Lorraine was inspired by his story, and together they lifted each other up. They made each other better than they would have been alone. Dr. Ashley inspired Walter to go into the ministry, and when I and my brother were born, Dr. Ashley became our godfather. After my brother and I were grown, Lorraine went back to school to learn the Orton-Gillingham method of teaching phonics to people with learning disabilities. And she had a tutoring relationship with the Carroll School for many years. She had a large bookcase of Dr. Seuss Learn to Read books, little golden books, children's classics, storybooks of all kinds, with every level of reading skill. Most of her students were boys, so she had a wide range of adventure stories designed to lure young boys into reading them. When one of her students swept all the books and papers off the table they were working at, Lorraine was able to understand his frustration and sense of failure. She was able to coax him back with a reward of M&Ms for playing a word game like Hangman. Lorraine was always willing to help the international students living at the Walker Center by helping them with their English and proofreading their papers, master's theses, and doctoral dissertations. Our family can't thank the folks at Walker Center enough for the kindness that they showed to my mother over the years, but especially at the end. Please come over to this wonderful place after the service. So, while I always knew my father's story, it wasn't until the end that I learned my mother's. How their respective backgrounds caused them to mesh, resonate, and reinforce each other. This never dawned on me until I heard this story. My parents' lives make sense to me in a way they didn't before. This was my aha moment. Now I get it. The moral of the story is as old as the Bible God uses all sorts of flawed people as God's helpers on earth. The saints have always had their weaknesses. All people of every faith can use the talents they have been given to make the world a better place if they will only try. The word I have always used to describe my mother is amazing. I will have her example as my guide for the rest of my life. She was an ordinary saint on earth, and now I believe she is a saint in heaven. Her soul reunited with my father's soul after more than 26 years of being apart. Glory, hallelujah.
As we sing this special song, I encourage you to remain seated, please, and turn to number 496 today. 496.